Flashback.
As Trump's fascism is the lead story every day, his cozying up to dictators, his obsession with Hitler that has now come out, what he has said about our veterans, and what he wants to do with the military against his political adversaries. It's all huge news. This is the future that we're looking at in the next Trump term, if there is one. But this is what voters know right now, that he is killing us. I'm talking about us women. He's killing us.
And then he says that the news network that is most critical of him should be taken off the air. This is not a reach. I could go back and talk about Nazi Germany, and I do it without any concerns whatsoever. And if people can't start drawing the parallels, well, you're just stupid, or you have your head in the sand, or you're one of them.
Over the past week, Joe and I have heard from so many people, from political leaders to regular citizens, deeply dismayed by several of President-elect Trump's cabinet selections, and they are scared. Last Thursday, we expressed our own concerns on this broadcast and even said we would appreciate the opportunity to speak with the president-elect himself. On Friday, we were given the opportunity to do just that.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We got to talk about some hilarious but fascinating, interesting news from MSNBC this morning, featuring Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski, who apparently visited Trump at Mar-a-Lago over the weekend to bend the knee, to beg for mercy, right? It seems as if President Trump, before even getting into office, has already made his enemies fold, okay? The supreme art of war is to subdue your opponent without fighting, right? You ain't even got to fight, okay? If anybody's read The Art of War, okay, I highly recommend it. That's what's happening here, okay? I also recommend reading The Prince, Machiavelli, right? Check this book out too. I might make a recommended book list because a lot of this stuff you're definitely going to need to read to understand what's about to happen over the next 4 years, okay? I'm just saying, okay? But Mika Brzezinski, Joe Scarborough, they have decided to detail exactly what happened during their trip to Mar-a-Lago. Now, best believe this is happening for a couple reasons, right? The main reason being that MSNBC and CNN, their ratings have failed through the roof, okay? Their ratings are tanking fast. The viewers are leaving them in droves.
It's a busy news cycle coming off the presidential election. It's a time of year news organizations bank on having high viewership, with high interest in who wins the election and reaction to the results. But some networks are seeing their post-election audience quickly evaporating. According to Nielsen ratings, MSNBC had a big election night, bringing in 6 million viewers. But the days following the election, MSNBC's viewership tanked to less than 1 million. The network losing more than half of its audience compared to its average viewership in October leading up to the election. Friday also marked the network's lowest rated non-holiday night of the year. MSNBC recorded a similar loss in viewership following the 2016 election after Trump's last presidential election victory. But the network rebounded, going on to have its 4 most watched years in its history from 2017 to 2020, as many news outlets were able to capitalize on Trump-heavy coverage with record revenue and subscribers. Following last week's election, CNN also hemorrhaged viewership. The network saw 5.1 million people tune in during their election coverage. In the days after the election, CNN's viewership also fell to 611,000, a 36% drop compared to its average viewership in October leading up to election night. Fox News saw a very different trend. While MSNBC and CNN were losing viewers, Fox News gained. On election night, the network saw over 10 million people tune in. And in the days that followed, Fox's total viewership averaged over 4 million, up 34% from its October average. That's also a 58% jump compared to its 2024 year-to-date numbers.
And the second reason why this is happening, which again is kind of related to the ratings, but it's a little bit separate, is because Trump won the popular vote, right? The majority of the country is MAGA. Did you guys watch NFL football this weekend? You saw all those players, black, white, whoever, doesn't matter. They were all doing the Trump dance, okay? On the field, celebrating after scoring touchdowns. The Trump dance is going viral. People are not afraid to come out and to openly support Trump, right? Trump is the move. Trump is the culture now, okay? And when you're not in line with the culture, again, this is what happens. What happens is that you have to bend the knee to Hitler, right? Hitler, okay? Just last week, this guy was calling Trump Hitler, and now he's singing a much different tune. Let's listen.
Good. Okay, so here's where we are. Over the past week, Joe and I have heard from so many people, from political leaders to regular citizens, deeply dismayed by several of President-elect Trump's cabinet selections, and they are scared. Last Thursday, we expressed our own concerns on this broadcast and even said we would appreciate the opportunity to speak with the president-elect himself. On Friday, we were given the opportunity to do just that. Joe and I went to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. It was the first time we have seen him in 7 years.
Now, keep in mind, again, these people were calling Trump Hitler before the election. Why in the world are they now willing to meet with Hitler? Why are they bending the knee to Hitler? Again, it's because they know that they are deeply unpopular. They know that they have ruined their reputations throughout this whole election season, especially Joe Scarborough. Again, this guy infamously said that if you don't believe that Joe Biden is the sharpest he's ever been, then F you, right? F you. This is what he said on national television, just for Joe Biden to later drop out of the race because he's losing his mind, right? So it's hilarious. They have a credibility problem. So now they have to restart communications. Now, also keep in mind, this is the same network, the same show that was very friendly towards Trump before he ran for president, right? Before he ran for president, Joe Scarborough and Trump, they were boys. They were friends. But as soon as Trump ran for president, now all of a sudden he became public enemy number one. They started saying that he's Hitler, which is something that they never believed, right? They never actually believed it. This is just what they were saying to their audience. But now that they figured out that this doesn't work, that this isn't popular, now they have to change the strategy coming up in Trump's next term. And that's essentially what they're going to explain here.
Now, we talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets. We talked about that a good bit. And it's going to come as no surprise to anybody who watches this show, has watched it over the past year or over the past decade, that we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of issues, and we told him so.
What we did agree on was to restart communications. My father often spoke with world leaders with whom he and the United States profoundly disagreed. That's a task shared by reporters and commentators alike. We had not spoken to President Trump since March of 2020, other than a personal call Joe made to Trump on the morning after the attempt on his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. In this meeting, President Trump was cheerful, he was upbeat, he seemed interested in finding common ground with Democrats on some of the most divisive issues. And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we? 5 years of political warfare has deeply divided Washington and the country. We have been as clear as we know how in expressing our deep concerns about President Trump's actions and words in the coarsening of public debate. But for nearly 80 million Americans, election denialism, public trials, and January 6th were not as important as the issues that moved them to send Donald Trump back to the White House with their vote.
AKA they lost. AKA MSNBC lost. Again, this is bending the knee. This is admitting defeat. They've been defeated. Now, as a defeated enemy, they come crawling back to Trump to beg for mercy. Again, this is this is some 48 laws of power stuff. Like, I'm so serious, right? Keep your friends close and your enemies closer, right? This is why Trump met with Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski. A lot of people are asking, why would Trump do that? He should have said, no, you don't do that. When your enemy is defeated, of course you meet with them. Because essentially at that point, They're needy, okay? And an enemy that's been defeated, sometimes they will be more loyal to you than a friend because the enemy already knows what happens when you step out of line, right? So you use your enemy after you defeat them, right? After you defeat them, you use them because they want to prove themselves. And in this case right here, Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough, they need to prove to the world that they have credibility, right? So again, this is why they're meeting with Trump because they have lost all their credibility. So in order to get it back, they now have to go groveling to Trump and kiss the ring and acknowledge that, hey, we have been defeated and we got to change, right? We have to change the way that we cover this presidency because what we did before did not work. Joe Scarborough used to be a friend. And guess what? That friend turned on Trump, stabbed him in the back, said he was Hitler, compared him to a Nazi. And look what happened, right? Look what happened. So I'm just saying, man, there's a whole lot of stuff going on here, right? But clearly you can see these people have been defeated, right? This is them waving the white flag.
Joe and I realize it's time to do something different. And that starts with not only talking about Donald Trump, but also talking with him.
As somebody close to Donald Trump told me this past weekend, this is a president who's not seeking re-election. So maybe, just maybe, now could be the time for both parties to get to work. And I know, given the jarring headlines that we read every day, that may seem like a stretch. But think about this. Of the 150 million votes cast, Donald Trump got 50%. Kamala Harris got about 49%. So I don't know. Seems to make sense for leaders of both parties to seek common ground if it's possible at all. And I will tell you, a lot of Democratic leaders we've talked to this past week since the election have told Mika and me it's time for a new approach. And when I say top Democrats, I mean top Democrats. They said, we're open, and this was before we talked to Donald Trump. They said, listen, we're open to working with the incoming president if the incoming president is open to working with us.
Yeah, the question is, though, how do we get there? Hyperbole and personal attacks will not work. My hair on fire doesn't work. We've all seen that. What also does not work is threatening political opponents with arrest, harassment, and even jail. That is a failed path. Recent history has proven that impeachments and trials turn those on trial into political martyrs and only make them more popular with the American people. Just ask Bill Clinton and Donald Trump.
Yeah. So you seen that, you heard that. These are people who've been defeated. They've been defeated. And then they're saying, hey, well, we need some common ground, right? Let's find common ground with Hitler. This is what they're saying on their network. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. This is hilarious. You could not have written a better script for 2024, right? I'm so serious. So, of course, they get absolutely roasted from both sides over this. Scott Jennings says, Hitler getting a lot more meeting requests than I would have thought. Eli Lake says, why would Trump bother talking to these people other than to urge them to seek mental health counseling? Well, again, you know, you got to use these people, right? They've been defeated and they're groveling and they need stuff, right? So, hey, maybe, just maybe they can be useful. I'm just saying. Brian York says, annals of shamelessness. They called Trump a fascist and much, much, much more. And then just 22 days after his Nazi-like rally, they fly to Florida for an audience. Afterwards, they say, quote, we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of issues, but they want to restart communications. What? Steve Cortez says, it's difficult to overstate how dishonest these two are. Mika and Joe screamed for months that Trump is a fascist and would end democracy. Now that he's elected and very popular, they visit him like it's just coffee with an opposing party politician. Yeah, because they never believed it. They never believed this stuff. They make it sound like international diplomacy. Keith Olbermann says, breaking news, I told you so. Joe and Mika, Trump, collaborators. Not a word Mr. and Mrs. Vinci Quisling say can ever be trusted again. Not that those words ever should have been trusted. They are confidence tricksters and grifters. Hey, I can't say I disagree with Keep Oberyn here, right? I can't say I disagree, okay? Even though I disagree in regards to the angle that it's coming from. But hey, I do agree with overall what he's saying. Republicans Against Trump says, this is why people don't trust the mainstream media anymore. Joe and Mika, who constantly attack fascist Trump on their show, went to Mar-a-Lago to talk with Trump over the weekend. Bowing in advance, cowards. This person says, given Morning Joe and Mika are now sucking up to Trump, I want to reshare my clip from MSNBC on Friday where I made it clear we will never surrender to Trump. We will take the fight to him. We will not meet him halfway on his fascism. Yeah. Again, and you're going to lose, man. You're going to lose. Again, at least Joe and Mika are smart enough to realize that, right? They're smart enough to understand that we lost, right? Our rhetoric did not work. Calling Trump Hitler a fascist, trying to throw him in jail, him almost being assassinated, that doesn't work, right? That doesn't help. That just makes him stronger. Trump is more popular than he's ever been before, right? What has been the result of all of that? What has been the result? Trump, again, is more popular than ever. Again, you have NFL players doing the Trump dance openly. Everybody's doing it. He's the wave. He's the culture. But the left, the radical lunatics, they think it's a great idea. Let's double, triple down. We will never surrender to fascism. Incredible. Jeff Jarvis says, to those of you waking up at this hour and thinking of watching the rerun of the first hour of Morning Joe, this is what you're in for. Joe and Mika's betrayal of their colleagues, democracy, and us all. It is a disgusting show of obeisance in advance. You have Roland Martin. He says, a fascist on 11/4 was a fascist on 11/5 and is one today. I damn sure won't be bringing my Black Star Network cameras to the global headquarters of the insurrection. Well, I don't think you actually have a chance of doing that, Roland, because I don't think that you would be invited, right? I'm pretty sure Trump would not allow that, okay? You don't have that much access. You're not as irrelevant as you think you are, right? I mean, you're like on the C list when it comes to so-called journalists, okay? Maybe even on the D list, to be honest with you. So, yeah, I don't think that you would even have the opportunity to do that. So, yeah, you're not going to have the chance, unfortunately, to
jump in his ass. You got to push back immediately. Jump in his ass.
Yeah, so I don't think that Roland would ever get that opportunity. Okay, but regardless, again, what you're seeing here is that Joe and Mika are already waving a white flag, right? They basically said, we've been defeated. They're now saying, hey, Trump, we want to kind of work with you in some way. They're trying to get their credibility back. They're trying to get an audience back. Okay, that's clearly what's happening. And you have other people who are upset about this. I wouldn't be surprised if leftists rage over this for days, okay? But again, that's what has to happen, right? I mean, at this point, the Democrat Party and the media landscape is going to have to change in regards to how they cover Trump if they want to survive, because I do not think that the constant Trump derangement, the hyperbole, the over-exaggerations, I do not think is going to work this time around. I really don't. But hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.